Welcome everybody to this month's our second Globe Observer Connect for August. We're very excited to talk to Christy Buffington and Sanetoki Matsuno, Sunny, about
Yes.
a journey that they did on collecting Globe data on board a ship. Just a reminder that we are recording this session, so if you don't want your image or your audio to be on the recording, you can go ahead and use the chat to ask questions, and we'll read them aloud. So just be aware that we are recording. So we have with us today, as I said, we have Christy Buffington, who's a Globe educator, and Sanetoki Matsuno, who's going to talk to us about, as a student, his experience. So I'm just going to turn it over to the two of you to go ahead and get started.
Great. Thank you so much for having us. And I'll go ahead and share my screen, and Sunny will kick us off.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Santoki Matsuno. This past March, I participated in a youth sailing program while sailing about 2,000 nautical miles from Japan to Palau over 2 weeks, while learning how to sail and receiving exciting lectures and educational activities such as cloud observations from our Globe educators on board. We will share our journey with this Globe vlog.
And I just put that in the chat, and I'm sharing my screen with this. This was a story that got published on the Globe website. And I'm Christy Buffington, a Globe educator and trainer at the University of Alaska Fairbanks Trothyeta campus. This is our Globe journey that you see on the left. You can see we started in Yokohama, Japan, and we ended in Palau. And what we did is every day we used Globe Observer to make observations, and then we also collected data and entered those into the Globe database when we got back to internet. This map was made by Ashley Wells. And for those of you who are new to Globe, Globe stands for Global Learning and Observations to Benefit the Environment. It's an international science and education program. It also has an app, which I mentioned that we used every day. I also want to share that Globe is a really great fit for an international literacy and leadership program. And I want to thank who made this possible. I've got my shirt here. Here we see the logo. It says OPRI for Ocean Policy Research Institute. That's from the Sasakawa Peace Foundation. And the back they said of our shirts for this voyage, it says Ocean Professional Raising Initiative. So really what we're doing is Sunny and 19 other students from around the world, plus 2 Globe educators from Alaska, became sailors and started on our paths to become ocean professionals. And so that we were really raising professionals. So if you want to introduce yourself and where you're coming from, because I see some names from around the world, go ahead and introduce yourself in the chat and where you are coming from. And I also want to just really thank Ocean Policy Research Institute of the Sasakawa Peace Foundation, who funded the entire voyage and the supplies. I want to thank NASA Science Activation Program and the grant, Arctic and Earth STEM Integrating Globe and NASA, for funding my time and my visit with the Globe Country Coordinator of Japan. I know that this is recorded and some of the students in Japan will be watching it later. Huge gratitude to my mentor, Elena Sparrow, who's joining us today, and the principal investigator of that grant, and to the International Arctic Research Center at the University of Alaska Fairbanks. Thanks for letting me leave my job for a whole month. All right, back to you, Sunny. He's going to tell us about the ship.
Yes, that is the ship we onboarded. It is called Mirae. In Japanese language, Mirae means to the future. As we were sailing towards Palau and making life-lasting memories and friends, it felt as if we were traveling towards our future. And is he here?
I don't see Captain Tomohisa Ohara. He was going to try to come today, but I
Yes.
don't think he's here. But he'll watch
Okay,
the recording.
Okay, should I? So I am going to introduce his profiles quickly. I am go. He was our captain when we were sailing towards Palau, but he is working as a program manager of ocean educators at OBRI now, and I remember him as our helpful and dependable captain and teacher at the same time. In fact, he taught us how to read nautical charts. And moving on to the methods we use to collect our seawater samples, we slowed down our ship to only 2 knots when we collected our data, and we used a bucket with rope attached to it to collect our seawater samples, and we used microscopes to observe planktons, but at the same time we also found a lot of microplastics, which reminded me of the seriousness of ocean pollution. And we also used probes to collect our dissolved oxygen and seawater temperature data. And I remember that the difficult part was that we had to measure the dissolved oxygen and temperature as soon as possible in order to get precise data. This is because of course, seawater temperature and the amount of dissolved oxygen can change over time. And Mrs. Christie was gonna put the poster.
Yes, I just put the poster. So what Sunny did is and Miraz is a law student in Bangladesh, and the two of them decided to make a poster together of the data that they collected. And in the story, you can see that the poster can be viewed here on the Globe website. So here it is. This is globe.gov website. This is the abstract that Sunny and Miraz wrote on the ship. And this is where you can find the poster. And then we're going to go ahead and pull up the poster. You click on View Research Report, and that's how you find the poster. So here it is. Sunny's going to present it, and I'm going to zoom into the parts that he's presenting. I'll do my best to zoom. Go ahead, Sunny.
Okay, I'm gonna start from intro, and as we were collecting our data during our voyage, I started to have some questions. I wanted to know whether the data was reliable or not. So seawater temperature and dissolved oxygen are crucial in marine ecosystems and can change everything. After talking to my partner Miraz and Mrs. Christie, we decided to find out if our dissolved oxygen and seawater temperature data was reliable and accurate. And yes, that's our question. And moving on to the methods. Yes. After collecting our data and using probes to collect our data, we compared our data, dissolved oxygen data, with the Globe table showing the expected dissolved oxygen in salt water at sea level, with temperature and salinity from quality control procedure for dissolved oxygen kit.
And I'm just putting that in the chat.
And when it comes to seawater temperature data, we got a map from Met Office of Japan for March 2024 from one of the crew members. And we compared our seawater temperature values with the 7 average daily 100 meters temperature values. So there's our representative. And yes, moving on to the methods that we use. Results. I'm sorry, results. Oh, the results.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry. There we go.
Thank you. There's a date and start time, and there's a seawater temperature at the surface. We compared it to the map on top of the results, and we use start latitude and longitude to figure out our position. There's a dissolved oxygen and expected dissolved oxygen. Moving on to the discussion and conclusions. Thank you. As we compared our data, we noticed mainly 3 things. And one is that our data was reliable and accurate. And second is that dissolved oxygen data was similar to the expectations. I'm sorry, could you go back to the results once again? Thank you so much. So let's take an example from March 15th. So our data of dissolved oxygen showed that the amount was 7.4, while expected dissolved oxygen was 7. This proves that our data was quite accurate and reliable. And the third thing we noticed was that quite new for us, and we noticed that as seawater temperature rises, the amount of dissolved oxygen decreases. We learned that this is because the molecules of seawater move faster, which makes dissolved oxygen diffuse of the water. And moving on to the next steps, we hope that this poster can enhance knowledge of not only ours, but also many people from various countries. And finally, the acknowledgement. I would like to show thanks to Mrs. Christina Meratz, OPRI, Sasagawa Peace Foundation, OPRI 2024 trainees, and all the crews of Mirai who supported us with this study.
That's an awesome job presenting what you did on the ship. And 5 months after doing it, and you got it down. Congratulations. Great job, Sunny. So one thing I'm so excited is that Sunny has been doing a ton of STEM work since then. He's downloaded the Globe Observer app, and with his mother and his family, he's out doing Globe Observer. I think you said you already have 50 observations. And I just am so impressed. And I also know you went to a STEM camp in Denver, and it's just really exciting. You were interviewed in Japan, and anyways, I'm very excited that of all of your work, Sunny, and the other 19 students on the crew. And I know we're at about 4:15 Alaska time. So I'm going to just real quickly scroll through this. A couple pictures. I really want to do a shout out and thanks to the other educator on board, Mrs. Cheryl Williams. Cheryl and I got to be trained and become certified tall ship crew members. We had to climb the rigging with the students. We had to do night watch, and we learned how to sail. But Cheryl's taught oceanography for 10 years, and she's also, for as long as Elena's known her, been doing Globe for close to 30 years. And then I also want to just show all of our students and the Sasakawa Peace Foundation we were celebrating when we got our certificates. And so, Sunny, you can talk about these two, and then we'll give it time for questions. These two.
Yes, yes. That the top picture is when we got closer and saw the land of Palau. When I saw the land of Palau, I remembered all the unforgettable and exciting, wonderful memories, such as setting the sails and experiencing various kinds of activities. And I will never forget the 2 weeks that I spent in Mirae. And I would like to show thanks to Captain Hara, Mrs. Christie, all the trainees and crews who supported us during our voyage. Thank you.
And I want to thank everyone with Globe who's trained me, because without the training I've had, it wouldn't have been possible for me to do this on the ship with Cheryl Williams, Dr. Alessandra Suti. Thank you for the microplastics training. That was absolutely invaluable to me when I was trying to learn and teach about microplastics. You know, we have the power to address ocean issues like increased water temperatures and lower dissolved oxygen or microplastics when we all work together. 5 months after the voyage, Sunny and I are still hard at work sharing what we learned. So now it's time. I'm going to go ahead and invite you to view Ashley Wells's story map. And I also want to thank you all for coming, and we welcome your questions. So I will stop screen sharing and we can have a conversation.
So please, if you have questions, go ahead and raise your hand, or you can put them in the chat. I'm going to start with one, Sunny. So I'm curious, had you been sailing before this? Because 2 weeks is, you know, not a short trip for a sailing trip. Had you been sailing before?
No, it was my first time.
And what did you think? Is it something you want to do again?
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
And it sounds like they really did put you to work on board the sailing ship too, with having to help with all of the rigging and all that sort of thing. That just sounds like the pictures look beautiful.
Yes.
I have to say that our captain just joined us. Captain Tomohisa Ohara just joined. I know it's very early in the morning there in Japan, but if you are able to say hello, you could do so in the chat, or introduce yourself and Sasakawa Peace Foundation in the Mirae if you would like to. I know it's very early there, but welcome and thanks for coming.
So most people do globe observations, you know, on solid ground. What did you think was most challenging about doing observations on board ship?
I think the hardest part was because we are on the ship, the ground just keeps moving and moving. So I think it was harder to take pictures, and everybody suffered from seasickness. So that was the hardest part. But the view was very beautiful because there's no trees or buildings. So that was some easier part, I think.
That's true. You don't have obscurations of your sky, no blocking of your sky if you're out in the middle of the water.
Yes, that's right.
I have a quick story, and then I noticed that Dr. Suti asked a question in the chat, and so the quick story to answer that question is the hardest part for me to do observations on the ship is when we had really bad weather. So we had to go into Makawa Bay, and it was because we were kind of stuck between two, there's low pressure and high pressure zones, and there was a cold front coming, and we had done all these cloud observations. We'd actually drawn the globe cloud triangle on the deck. And we had to wash all the chalk off the deck afterwards. But we did that to learn all the cloud types. The weather was beautiful. Fuji-san, Mount Fuji was in the background glistening, but then slowly the clouds started changing. So it was a great time to observe those clouds. And then the next day, wham, we were stuck in a bay. We couldn't move. I know Captain O'Hara tried to get out one day, and then we had to get back and anchor again in the same bay. So for me, that was like, oh my goodness, sailors watch the sky. They know how to read these clouds. So for me, it made the science hit home, and then it made Globe Observer even that much more important to learn and do, because that's cloud observations. That's also when the crew said that it was time for me to teach. So the ship's going like this, and I'm running from one side to the other, and I'm with a screen in front. So we did have a TV that we could project slides.
That is something that I always hope people get out of using the Globe Observer app and the clouds tool, is paying more attention to the clouds and the weather, because of course that's very important when you're on board a ship. But people using the app and other places, maybe that will help them pay more attention, even when it's perhaps less significant to whether you can get where you're going when you're on ground. But yeah, so we had, Dr. Alessandra Suti asks, can you comment on how this trip has changed your view of the ocean and how you see your role as a scientist in training?
Yes, it did change the way I look at the ocean. So I watched a very beautiful ocean while we were sailing, but at the same time, unfortunately it is true that we saw a lot of trash, microplastics, or big tons of plastics floating around the ocean. And yes, I think I already had a little bit of awareness of ocean pollution or environmental degradation, because I used to visit a lot of foreign countries, Asian foreign countries, when I was little. So I already saw a lot of trash, plastics floating, and I was wondering where the trash will go eventually. And yes, of course, after this voyage, the awareness of the environmental degradation raised dramatically.
And it's sort of a follow-up question from Waleska Aldana about your observations on microplastics. Did you share with your community these issues? And I know now I think you said you're in Tennessee, so you're not near the ocean now, but have you talked to others in your community about these issues with plastics?
Yes, I did. So my teacher let me do a presentation in front of the whole class after I came back to Tennessee. So so there's, as you said, there's no ocean in Tennessee. Thus, I thought if I talk about the ocean, I think it's hard for them to understand because they don't have ocean. So I took Tennessee River as an example.
So that's and that's a great way to take something that about a different place and make it relevant to something that's nearby you. That's excellent.
Yes. I just want to echo with that too. Sunny, after I came back to Alaska, I realized that most of the pollution in the ocean does come from the land. And so what I wash, if I choose to use a sponge that's made out of plastic, it breaks down and eventually it can go into the ocean. So that really opened up my eyes, and I started changing how I live and what products I use.
And Waleska adds that also maybe linking it to fish and salt that we all consume, because that is an issue if the fish, not just plastic, but other contaminants. I know, I think it was mercury was a big issue in fish, wasn't it? That at one point that you have to be kind of careful of that, but things get into the water and then they get into the food web, whether it's for humans or for other animals. Everything has an impact further down the line.
I also want to reflect to the excellent question from Waleska Aldana about sharing with communities the issues that we found. So on the ship, the students, they were also part of why they applied to this program is so that they could become leaders in their own communities. And so as educators, part of my role and Cheryl Williams' role was try to foster opportunities for students to develop that leadership. And we decided to have students do a presentation about issues that they could address on the ship itself. And so they started learning about their hair dryer use and their energy use, and then the plastics, like how we cleaned the ship. Could we use coconuts? I mean, every morning we use coconut husks to scrub the ship, but then later we use some plastic brooms. And so the students themselves started to look at what we were doing on the ship. And then once we got to Palau, we presented that to the people of Palau. And then that led to some conversations about cigarettes and cigarette butts, which contain a lot of plastics. And that trash on Palau, how does that trash leave? Like, where does it go? If it stays on Palau, it's going to get in the ocean.
And it looks like Omar, go ahead if you want to unmute, and if you wish to turn on your camera or not, but go ahead and ask your question.
Hey, hello. My name is Omar. I'm from Egypt, and I study Pearson BTech student diploma in information technology, and I get GPA 4 out of 4. So my question is, how can this program be yeah, like I take a benefits of this program for my career? So yeah, you understand me?
So how can the program benefit you in the future? And specifically, are you thinking in information technology?
Yes, yeah. Thank you.
Omar, thank you so much for asking your question. One of the trainees was a data science undergraduate major, and he also worked a lot with turtles and turtle conservation in Tunisia. We do have someone here from Tunisia, Mohammed. You actually know this person. And he was learning that data science and IT is really crucial, because a lot of in order to protect the ocean and like with Globe, all the data that we're collecting, it goes to an actual database. That database requires people with those skill sets to be able to look through the data and make sure that it's accurate data, and not necessarily accurate, but we as collectors, we know that the data is accurate, but they code and make sure that the data doesn't have any personal information. And I know Kristen Weaver does a lot of this work. So like, we need everyone in these environmental programs and professions to contribute in the way that they can, and what they are studying makes a difference in what they do as a profession. So I hope that gives you some answer. I'm going to give you a link in the chat that lists where you can find these 119 data points that's on the Sasakawa Peace Foundation's Globe program organization site.
And I think the other thing that I would think, I think it's important to have a variety of experience and have exposure to a lot of different types of topics and things, because then you can make connections, even if that maybe doesn't seem immediately like your field or what you want to do. Maybe there's something that'll be a connection later on that you'll go back and remember, oh, I remember that experience, and have some connection to that. I think one of the wonderful things about working at Goddard, where I do, is when I go have a chat with someone who's doing really interesting research in some area that's maybe not connected to GLOBE, but sometimes you can find an interesting connection, even though it doesn't seem on the surface like there's an obvious connection there. And I think so, having this variety of experiences, I hope, Sunny, that you think that is valuable as you go through as you go through and continue your studies and decide what you want to do, is that not everything has to be about that one thing that you see your career as being. You can have
Yes.
a wide variety of experiences is good.
Yes, that's right.
And we're actually, the half hour flew past. I don't know if there are any last questions.
I just want to invite, if just to say hi, just to wave or something. Captain Mr. Tomohisa Hara is our captain for this voyage, and we're super grateful. But if you could write in the chat or unmute if you are able to, and say hello. But also, if Sasakwa Peace Foundation Ocean Policy Research Institute is planning on doing any more of these voyages that GLOBE students or people around the world might be able to participate in, let us know that as well.
Well, with that, I think we'll wrap things up. But thank you so much, Sunny and Christy, for sharing your story of your amazing voyage. And I hope people, if you have not checked out the story map and with all those lovely pictures and videos and things of all the work that was done, and you can look at Sunny's poster in more detail. And Sunny, we will look forward to your further investigations with GLOBE, and maybe another poster on a different topic for next year. So
Yes.
Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us.
Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Yes, thank you so much. Arigatou gozaimasu.
Take care, everybody. Have a wonderful evening or day, whatever time of day it is for you. Bye-bye.